Before I get too carried away with this video, I just thought it'd be kind of funny to point out that I asked this thing to give me a 7-mile approach, and take a look at the altitude. Go Microsoft. Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at how to make your landings a little bit softer. Now this is one of those things that came up the other day in the real world flying, and I was like, there's got to be a strategy in order to make it a little bit easier, especially on soft fields. So we were having a little bit of, whoa! Oh, by the way, they changed the propeller model, so don't be surprised if you get a little of those shenanigans also. Although I think the real reason for that is that the mixture isn't set correctly. We'll deal with it. Thanks, Microsoft. So anyway, one of the things I was doing is I was trying to determine exactly how I can improve my landings a little bit without necessarily disrupting my existing technique. So I played around, tried to kind of experiment with it, use different techniques depending on exactly what I was trying to achieve, and I did finally found one that I kind of liked. And that is basically when you're coming in for landing, and this applies to all aircraft. This is not just unique to the Cessna 172. Normally what we do, especially like on a small plane, is we pull the throttle back and we basically kind of coast in. One of the downsides to this, of course, is if there's any sort of disruption and you reach down and you push the throttle forward, especially to kind of slow your descent rate just a little bit, you tend to have a very strong one of these actions from the plane. Now, when you're 6 inches off the ground and you go ahead and do that, the problem you're going to have is it's going to disrupt everything. So your attempt to make your landing softer usually results in a kind of down the runway, and I'm sure everybody's experienced that a few times, especially real-world pilots. So then it occurred to me, well, wait a minute, why don't I do what the 737 guys do, and they leave some throttle in. So I was experimenting with this a little bit back and forth, trying to figure out exactly, what's the correct amount of throttle to leave in, and then I tried different airplanes as well, and then I said, well, wait a minute, there's actually a trick here. So what you're going to do is we're going to do a normal landing approach. Again, with 65 knots, so the reason I'm doing $1.40 here, so I can get down to the runway quicker. We're in Keene, New Hampshire, by the way, for those of you who are curious. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pull the throttle all the way back, and we're going to push it in that far. That's it. So if you want to take a look at it as far as RPM goes, it's an increase of RPM to about 200 or so. And that is literally exactly as much as you're going to need to go ahead and make this landing a little bit softer than usual. So what I'm going to do is cheat just a tiny bit here. Again, try to get us to the end of the runway a little bit sooner so we can show you just how much of a difference this can make. Looking pretty good, looking pretty good. Can't even see the runway because of the snow. Welcome to my part of the world, by the way. There we go. Go ahead and start slowing us down. Again, make sure everything else for your landing is good. Otherwise, this technique won't mean much at all because, of course, you're going to finally come in and the plane's going to be going too fast. And no matter how much extra power you give yourself, it's just going to make things tricky for you. Keep in mind, when you're doing soft field landings, you're supposed to touch the ground as softly as possible, and this is just another way to do it. All right, looking pretty good. To be honest, I don't even know where the runway is. I think it's that big white blob right there over there. Nice. So we're going to go ahead and get ourselves at our normal established approach speed for this aircraft. That's between 60 and 65 knots. And the real one, the plane I usually fly is in miles an hour, so I don't even know what it is anymore. I just point at the number 70 and just kind of leave it there. Interestingly enough, folks who fly things like Warriors and Archers usually come in about 70 as opposed to 65. That low wing kind of has its own little quirks. So let's go ahead and try this out. So there's the lovely numbers over there. Go ahead and back the throttle out. Throttle response in this game needs to be improved. It's just not that bad in the real world. So let's go ahead and try this out. So we're going to do our approach. We're going to aim at the big number 2. We're going to pull the throttle back, and now we're going to push it forward a little bit. We're going to push the forward about point. Ooh. There we go. And we're down. Perfect. Other than the little whoop-de-doo right there, of course, I almost banged into my microphone. That didn't help. Notice how butter soft that landing was. We basically accelerated the tires and then gently transferred the weight of the plane onto it. Keep in mind, if you're on a really, really, really massive runway, you're not able to get away with that on account of the fact that you need to get on the ground immediately. But if your goal is to hit the ground as softly as possible, try leaving in a little throttle. Like I said, this is all the way out. This is about as much as I pushed in. If I can show you a picture of my real throttle, I may be using 10 to 15% of total throttle travel there. But other than that, enjoy.